You don't remember when, why, or how your fear of thunderstorms manifested. You just knew that the only way for you to cope, from the booming of thunder and split-second flashes of lightning, was the soothing embrace of your parents, holding you tight until their gentle rocking lulled you to sleep. Would it be too shameful to wish that you were in your mother or father's arms as a young adult? If you confronted anyone about your petty fear at this age, they would probably tell you to grow up. Hell, if you confronted your parents about it at this age, they would probably say the same. Not that you could. Today just had to be the day where you were home alone, curled up in your bed in your dimly lit room. Your parents weren't going to be home until a few days later, which meant you had to suffer through a weather forecast that dictated a storm that would last for the next 2 days. You cursed at yourself for accidentally misplacing your noise-canceling headphones as another roll of thunder shook the skies, making you jump and bury your face in your knees. You had been sitting in your room in trembling silence for the last 20 minutes, feeling like a helpless toddler wrapped in blankets. You tried distracting yourself with anything and everything around the house, but as long as the thunder kept rolling, you were frozen in your spot like a deer in headlights. Your room was lit up by the light of your phone going off, making you stretch out a shaking hand to see who you got this sudden notification from. You groaned through the pitter-pattering of rain, moving to put your phone back on your nightstand once you found out that the notification was nothing but a social media scandal. But you stopped. You hastily tapped around the screen, as a half-hearted means to distract yourself from the storm, before finding yourself in your contacts. Were you really going to call your parents? You shook your head to clear your jumbled thoughts, continuing to scroll through the multiple names on your phone until your eyes landed on a specific one. You were a little embarrassed when you thought of calling the number, but he was the only one you could think of who most likely wouldn't judge you for something as childish as a fear of thunderstorms. You hesitated before tapping on the contact and bringing the phone to your ear. Man, this sucks. Kaminari groaned, throwing himself onto the living room couch, abandoning the game controller on the floor once he lost for the 8th time. Beside him was a chuckling Kirishima, scrolling absent-mindedly through his phone. Why does it have to rain? We had a day of excitement planned. The Baku squad had the original plan of spending the day on the road and raiding every fast food restaurant and convenience store they came across. But plans were cut short when Bakugo had to, begrudgingly, pick up a work shift and Mina had to prepare for an upcoming dance performance. What's more, none of the 3 remaining idiots thought of checking the day's weather forecast, which led to them being stranded at Kirishima's. Why don't you go out there and run around for a bit? If you're lucky, you'll get struck by lightning, Sero said with a sarcastic grin, returning to the living room after making himself a cup of tea. Doesn't that sound exciting? Kaminari nudged his friend with a laugh. I swear to God, Sero, I'll... Their banter was cut short when Kirishima's phone began to ring. The redhead tilted his head at the name that suddenly popped up on his phone. It wasn't often that you called him. Actually, you almost never did. Though you and Kirishima were childhood friends up until the start of middle school where he moved away, only to come back to the house next door for the start of sophomore year, you had lost touch with him. Kirishima would be lying if he said he wasn't disappointed, for he had the biggest crush on you since the day he moved away. But despite living next door to each other, you almost never saw each other due to you attending different schools, and never had the time to hang out because of work and studies. So this was a pleasant surprise for him. Kirishima hit answer with little hesitation, bringing the phone to his ear. Hey listener, how's it going? Through the booming of thunder, he heard your soft voice from the other end of the phone.
Kiri?
It sounded almost strained, Kirishima picking up on the slight trembling in your voice.
Are you... are you busy?
Not really. Why? What's up? Your hesitation was evident through the call.
Can you... come over?
Now? He asked, almost shocked. You two haven't seen each other in a while, and despite being neighbors, you never really asked the other to come over, only doing so for the occasional dinner with your families. He ran a hand through his matted hair, looking back to his friends before responding. You see, I kinda have some friends over. You know, Sero and Kaminari. And it's raining pretty hard, even though we live next to each other.
Oh, never mind then. Sorry,
You jumped the moment a roar of thunder boomed so loud it shook the house, causing lights to flicker.
Sorry I called.
It was like a wave of realization washed over Kirishima the moment the lights flickered back on. He brought a fist to his face, tapping it against his forehead as a means to scold himself. After being friends since you were toddlers, he was an idiot for completely forgetting the fact that you had a fear of thunderstorms. Memories of holding you against him when you were kids and huddling under his blankets as a way to drown out the thunder came rushing back to him, bringing a sense of guilt in his chest. Listener, hey, it's obvious that you don't want to be alone right now, and it would be unmanly of me if I just let it slide when I could probably do something to help. Kirishima sat up straight, his body already itching to sprint over to your door and comfort you in any way he could. You know I wouldn't hesitate to be there. It doesn't matter what the weather is. He heard you sniffle quietly through the other line.
Are you sure?
Of course. I'm just not sure if you want two dinks like Sero and Kaminari there. I can't just leave them here without supervision. Who knows what they would get into? He said teasingly, earning a hard nudge from Denki and a whine of protest from Hanta, who almost choked on his tea. Kirishima heard you giggle, making his heart swell.
I don't mind. The more, the merrier, I suppose.
He replied, resulting in Kirishima jumping up to his feet, followed by his friends. If that's the case, then do you want me to come over? He received another jab from Kaminari, making him roll his eyes and correct himself. Do you want us to come over?
Yes, please.
Kirishima hummed happily, instructing Hanta, who was chugging the rest of his drink, to grab the softest blanket from his room as the redhead rushed to the kitchen to fetch your favorite hot chocolate mix that he and you shared as kids. Then we'll be there in 3. You practically rushed downstairs when you heard the doorbell ring, not wanting to be away from the comforting hold of your bed for long. You sighed in relief when you saw the familiar face of your childhood friend standing there, slightly damp from the rain. You still weren't used to seeing him in his crimson hair. You almost missed the dark ebony boy from elementary. But you could tell that the man before you was still the same boy you fell for, judging by the way he smiled that toothy grin. Hey, he said, almost awkwardly. It felt like a long time since he last saw you. Granted, it had been. Hi, you responded with the same level of nervousness, temporarily forgetting where you were as you lost yourself in the vermilion haze in his eyes. And a hello from me, Kaminari interrupted, poking his head from behind his red-headed friend, waving cheerfully at you. Sorry to break the moment, but it is a little chilly. Laughing apologetically, you allowed the 3 inside. You were familiar with the 2 boys that accompanied Eijirou. You run into them a few times on your way home from work or school. You usually find them, along with 2 others, a boy and a girl, awaiting Kirishima in his driveway, and the 2 boys never fail to greet you every time. The house was a little more lively now that the 3 gentlemen made themselves comfortable, Eijirou's friends crashing on the couch as the redhead excused himself to head to the kitchen. You were leaning against the head of the couch, so lost in conversation with the 2 boys that your laughter drowned out the very thing that had you trembling just moments ago. How are you holding up? Kirishima asked as you calmed down from laughing at one of Kaminari's terrible one-liners, emerging from the kitchen and taking his place beside you. His question leaned more towards your current state, but a part of him wanted to know how you had been since he moved away. He had admitted to himself multiple times how much he missed you, and how his feelings for you never died after all these years. The least he could do was catch up with his childhood best friend. You gave him a gentle smile, opening your mouth to respond, only to jerk forward in surprise, your arms coming to wrap themselves around you when the brightest flash of lightning caused everything to go black, followed by the loudest boom of thunder you heard all day. Your breath hitched, causing your chest to tighten along with the grip you had on yourself. Your legs gave way, your body collapsing in a state of panic. You rested your head against the back of the couch in a desperate attempt to ease yourself, the majority of your mind still frightened, but a small part of it feeling embarrassed at how panicked and childish you probably looked. "Listener!" Kirishima cried against the harsh pounding of rain, his voice the only source of light in this pool of darkness. You felt something soft drape over your shoulders, the smell of cinnamon and distinct cologne immediately enveloping you in a familiar warmth. Something you missed as a child. You winced when a small beam of light was cast down upon you, looking up to see Kaminari peeking from the couch, holding his phone, flashlight on, with a worried expression. On one side of you was Sero, who donned the same concerned face as he gently rubbed your back. He was the one who practically leaped over the couch and rushed to wrap you in the blanket. You were pulled into a warm chest, the same cologne overwhelming your senses as you buried your tear-stained face in the crook of Eijirou's neck, one hand pulling the blanket tighter around your frame, and the other helplessly grasping at the man's hoodie. "Shh, Pebble. I'm here." He cooed in your ear, allowing a hand to comb through your hair, Kirishima taking the opportunity to lightly nuzzle his cheek against you. "You're not alone now. It's okay." You didn't know how long you stayed in the living room, cowering into Kirishima's chest when the storm grew louder. Your hand had let go of the blanket and both arms were wrapped tightly around Eijirou's frame, the blanket just loosely set on your shoulders. Sero, along with Kaminari, had disappeared into the kitchen. Something about making you a drink to calm you down. "Bedroom," you whimpered, just barely for the man to hear. An innocent request. Eijirou knew you felt the most at ease in the comfort and warmth of your bed. Or his, back when he would come over every other day, not knowing that a storm would approach. With nothing but a reassuring smile, he wrapped the rest of you in the blanket before hooking one arm under your legs while the other supported your back, lifting you off the ground. Even in the dark space that was your living room, Kirishima couldn't help but admire you in his arms. Wrapped tightly in a blanket from head to toe, you looked like a caterpillar. A cute caterpillar. A cute caterpillar that Eijirou couldn't help but fall head over heels for. He would not hesitate to fight every single drop of rain if it meant seeing you happy. He gently placed you on your bed, rearranging a few pillows behind you in an effort to make you more comfortable. You refused to let him go, practically pulling him down beside you. This caused Eijirou to flush. He knew how clingy you could be during these times, and he couldn't blame you. With a soft chuckle, he slowly laid down next to you, you not at all hesitating to wrap your arms around him, draping the blanket over him in the process. This was a familiar feeling, something you dearly missed. The feeling of his arms wrapped tightly around you, your legs entangled, brought back a sweet sense of nostalgia. Kirishima's presence always managed to drown out the very thing that had you cowering under the blankets, burying your head in his chest, his heartbeat lulling the sounds of the storm until it was merely a whisper in the distance. You two said nothing, only the occasional soft, comforting words from Kirishima and the gentle music he had put on not too long ago, filling the silence with a tranquility that brought back the memories of when you were kids. The both of you nearly missed the knock at the door, until Sero walked in with 2 mugs in hand, Kaminari trailing behind him, humming to himself. "Lullaby goodbye and goodnight. Now the daytime is over. Time to slip up to your dreamland. I will keep you safe and warm. Ow! What? Sero nudged the blonde, nearly spilling the hot chocolate the moment Denki burst into full song. You only laughed, still partially buried in Eijirou's chest. We'll leave you love bugs alone, yeah? Sero said, his signature smile on his face once he handed you one of the mugs. You and Kirishima thanked him as he made his way back to the living room, one hand pushing Kaminari out the door. See you in the morning, Sunshine Nuggets, he called from over his shoulder, his blonde hair disappearing around the corner. You giggled at the duo's antics, taking a small sip of the hot beverage. The moment the rim of the mug left your lips, you felt Kirishima's hand weave itself through your hair, tucking it behind your ear. It rested on your face, a thumb gently running against your cheek as he gazed into your eyes. I'm glad to see you, he said, his voice soothing. Happy, I mean, but I'm glad to see you in general. You couldn't help but laugh at his flustered smile, one hand coming up to rest on his, interlacing your fingers and giving it a gentle squeeze. I really missed you, you confessed, earning a soft peck on the bridge of your nose from Eijirou before he rested his forehead against yours. Somehow, this intimacy felt natural. Not just because you two have known each other since you were children, used to being wrapped in blankets together and sharing your space with the other in a means of innocent comfort. It was beyond that. It felt natural for you to lean in, face mere inches away from Kirishima's, nothing but silence wrapped between the both of you. He did nothing to stop you, meeting you halfway as his hand traveled to the back of your head, pulling you closer as his lips pressed against yours. Your body tensed in the best possible way, the sweetness and warmth of the hot chocolate lingering on his lips sending tingles down your spine. Words of mutual feelings were spoken through your kiss. Sweet, gentle, reassuring, a promise that you were always going to be there for the other. The rain fell quietly, your fear being erased by the ball of tenderness and love that was Kirishima Eijirou. He pulled you into his chest, smiles and blushing cheeks remaining as the result of your kiss. Kirishima made a promise to himself that he was no longer going to drift from you, that he was always going to be there when you needed him. Whether it be your fear of storms or anything else that has you scared or anxious, he was going to throw everything aside just to see you happy. You nestled into his embrace as he affectionately pet your hair, humming with the music and lulling you to sleep. Storms were the bane of your existence, but luckily, you had a neighbor, now a partner, who was willing to be your rock. Little child, be not afraid. The rain pounds harsh against the glass like an unwanted stranger. There is no danger, I am here tonight. Little child, be not afraid. Though thunder explodes and lightning flash illuminates your tear-stained face, I am here tonight, and someday you'll know that nature is so. The same rain that draws you near me falls on rivers and land, and forest and sand, makes the beautiful world that you see in the morning.